Welcome everyone to Women in Community. We are talking this month about glimpses of our lives as we interview one another and find out about our walk with the Lord. I get the opportunity to interview my very good friend Cecilie, and I'm so excited to get to interview you. We've known each other a long time.
Yes, we have.
You know, you were born and raised in Norway. I don't know if everyone knows that. And I'm wondering, how did you end up in the United States and in Tulsa, of all places?
Yes, Tulsa of all places, right? So I felt the calling of God really early in my life. I got saved when I was 17. Mm-hmm. And a few months later, I started, to feel this stirring inside of me. Mm-hmm. And I became passionate about making a difference and knew I wanted to help others experience God the way I had.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And so I was in college at the time, or a little later, went through high school and then went into college. But I just longed to get into ministry. That was all I could think about.
Wow.
And so after I had actually gone to a Bible school, I had been at Youth with a Mission and their discipleship training, their school and on team and in the summers, and
wow.
Loved that. But as far as getting an education, that was probably within what was available in Norway at the time. Was just basically either some type of mission school,
okay,
or it was like a Lutheran seminary.
Oh.
And I did not really feel that direction.
Yeah.
So now I had a friend who had spent a year in Tulsa.
Ah.
And so he wrote to me we did not have internet at the time, right? And so he wrote
a letter
to me, right, during the year and said, talked about the Bible school he was attending and so forth. And so we decided, a friend and I, we decided to come during the summer and visit. Uh-huh. And so we started attending a church where I met you.
That's right.
And I met my husband.
Yes, indeed.
And so I decided to stay. So.
You did not go home right away.
No, I did not. So
what were some of the challenges you faced? I mean, you came over thinking you were coming for the summer, for one thing.
Right. Well, there was the whole culture difference,
Talk about that a little.
Okay. So I had grown up, not in a wealthy family, but in a, well-to-do. We always had everything. Mm-hmm. I was the only child. So there was always clothes. There was always everything, right?
Yeah.
And grew up in in a beautiful home and lots of nice nature that I'm used to, and just all the humor, and that is different. The humor is different over here. And so I had to just kind of get used to all of that.
Wow.
And so when I decided to stay, I didn't have a green card. So
yes.
All of a sudden I had to use my faith in a whole new way.
Wow.
Because I didn't have winter clothes. In October it started to get cold. Uh-huh.
And you brought summer clothes.
Yes, I only had summer clothes. And so I had to believe God.
Yeah,
for a winter coat, for transportation in Norway. There's public transportation everywhere, right?
Oh, wow, that's so different.
I love it. But anyway, so it's so different here. So I had to believe God for a transportation.
Really, everything?
Everything. Food, everything.
Yes.
And I was not used to that. And so it just really stretched me,
Oh, I'm sure.
And actually my friend who was with me, she left and went home.
Oh.
Yeah. She got homesick, I think. But I was just determined to stay because I wanted to be established in our identity in Jesus. And that was what that church taught, as you well know. So thoroughly taught about our identity in Jesus.
Yes.
You know, the death, burial, and resurrection, the
Yes.
DBR, as we called
Yeah.
it. And so it just kind of really ruined me, because I knew that I could not settle for anything less.
We've said the same thing.
Yes, exactly. And we have talked about that many times. And so so that is, you know, where I discovered freedom, freedom. And I experienced a healing from things,
Yeah.
because I found out who I was in Jesus.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I decided to stay, and I had to wear this ugly green winter coat that was a hand-me-down. And and I drove around. I actually my parents actually sent me some money, even though my mother was furious that I stayed instead of
sure.
going back to college, right?
Yeah.
And so, but anyways, they sent me a little bit of money, and so I bought this car. It was an old Chevy, and I can't even remember, Impala, actually.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was an old, big, one of those flakes,
Yeah.
And for $500.
Wow.
And it actually lasted for a few months before the whole transmission just,
Oh, dear.
fell apart. And so I sold it to a used car, not a used car, actually a scrap
Like a junkyard.
junkyard.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, for $75.
Oh, my gosh.
So you can imagine.
How did you get around?
But then I started dating John,
Okay.
and he had a car. It didn't have air conditioning,
Oh,
but
Lord.
at least it ran. Yes. So
Wow.
yeah. And we actually used that car to drive through not Death Valley, but close to it. But
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. Yeah. I almost fainted.
I'm sure.
That was
Yeah, the
But anyway.
Norwegian girl in
Yes.
the desert.
right. And so obviously all of these things that I wasn't used to,
Yeah.
I had to step out in faith.
Yeah.
And I know that God honors that type of faith. We can believe a lot of things,
Yeah.
but faith takes action.
Yes.
Faith takes some type of action. And so that's where I want to encourage everybody this
Yeah.
month, is to think about that, or this week, is to think about that. What is that step of faith that God is calling us to do right now? Because he rewards that.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I am so grateful that somehow I experienced the grace of God to walk through all of
Yes.
that. And here I am today.
And considering what came next, that sort of stretching of your faith really stood you in good stead, considering all of the traveling you ended up doing.
Right.
All over the world you
Yes.
went.
Yep.
How you had to believe God still for the
Yeah,
things you needed.
absolutely. And I still am.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, and it's
Yes.
always a walk of faith. And
Yes.
faith acts, because James says, that faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
We can have beliefs, but faith acts.
Yes. And our dreams require faith.
It does. And, that's, just want to end with this, that, our famous scripture in Hebrews 11:1, right? Jordan translation says that faith is turning dreams into deeds.
Turning dreams into deeds.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway from this interview. Thank you so much, Cecilia.
Thank you, Paula.
Ladies, turn your dreams into deeds.